Welcome to my Soul Series. Soul Series is part of Oprah and Friends, exclusively on XM Radio Channel 156. And you can listen to the entire Soul Series collection on xmradio.com/Oprah. It's uplifting, enlightening, truly powerful. Welcome to Soul Series. Welcome back to our Soul Series. Dr. Wayne Dyer has agreed to join us for yet another conversation because I couldn't get enough of him. His new book, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, went immediately to the bestsellers. That's always good, isn't it?
It's wonderful.
When that happens. And so the new book is about living the wisdom of the Tao, and Dr. Dyer was telling us last week that you actually decided that you were going to give up everything, including your shoes, all your clothes, all your belongings, for a year to live the Tao. But for people who are listening, it's not necessary to give up everything in order to live these principles.
No, I don't think you have to physically give up everything, but I think the more of what you own that owns you is a good thing to give away.
Right.
And I try to live by the 80-20 rule, which is, that 20% of what you have is what you use, and 80% you don't use. So to give as much of that away as you can.
Well, one of the reasons I really like this book, and have really appreciated so many of your books, beginning with Erroneous Zones, and as I told you, The Power of Intention is also another one of my favorites. But one of the reasons I like this one so much, Changing Your Thoughts and Changing Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao, which is currently on the bestsellers, is about all the chapters dividing into living with cooperation, living without sickness, living a God-realized life, living in heaven's net, living by bending, living like water. That was one of my favorites.
Water is, Lao Tzu is teaching us, find your God, your source, your spirit, your soul. Find it in nature. Look at how nature acts, and then replicate that. Think like God thinks. And
water is so giving, so flexible, so
it's soft. It's the softest thing. It's like at Lao Tzu again. The softest thing overcomes the hardest thing. Flexibility. The 76th. Do you have the book there? The 76th verse of the Tao is my favorite verse in this book, and it teaches us this. Is it okay if I do this?
Yeah, please do that.
76. Listen to this. A man is born gentle and weak. At his death, he is hard and stiff. All things, including the grass and trees, are soft and pliable in life, dry and brittle in death. Stiffness is thus a companion of death. Flexibility is a companion of life. That's a part of the 76th verse of the Tao Te Ching. Now, he wasn't just saying become stiff or become flexible in your body. He was saying become flexible in your thinking. In your, remember in the last election?
I read that, and what I felt when I read that is, it's not just in your thinking, it's becoming flexible in the way you move. When I read that, I felt like it means flexible in all of your movement, in your thinking movement, in your emotional movement, in your spiritual movement. It means
being
fluid,
soft. It means being gentle.
Yeah.
It means in the last election, during the debates with John Kerry and George, one of the big things about this whole thing was flip-flopping. This whole concept of a rigid thinking is a thinking. Emerson said a foolish consistency is the hobgoblin of little minds. The idea that someone would believe something and say, whatever I believe on Monday, on Wednesday you can count on me, I'll believe the same, regardless of what happens on Tuesday, is a scary kind of concept.
Right.
You want someone who says, I believe this on Monday, now look what happened on Tuesday. I have a whole different point of view here on Wednesday. That's not flip-flopping. That's living the Tao. That's how the universe works. It asks you to be soft, to be gentle, to understand that water is that great symbol of that. If you can, in your relationships, whoever you are, if you can just become like water, you can enter into any place in your partner's life mentally by being water.
Wow.
Because it just enters every opening. And you can become one with that person by being water.
All right. I don't want to run out of time again, because last week I wanted to talk to you about what that year was like, because in case you're just tuning in, I'm joined in the studio today with Dr. Wayne Dyer, who's written a great new book, his 32nd one, called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. And for 1 solid year, he lived the Tao, gave up everything, all of his worldly possessions, including shoes. I keep coming back to shoes because hard to live without shoes. I'm thinking I could be naked, but I need shoes.
You need shoes.
What about all my Jimmy Choos? Oh, my goodness. When I read that, I was thinking, okay, I would give up everything? Everything. And what was that like? Okay, you tell your secretary, give up everything. She's selling, not even selling everything. You say, give it all away. Not even interested in making money. And then, how did you begin this process of living the Tao? So you had read the verses, you'd studied. Did you study all the 14,000 different versions?
I took the version that's in the entire Tao Te Ching is in this book. It's my translation of the Tao.
Yes.
But I took 10 of the most relevant ones to the West, to us here in America, to us here in the Western world, and combined all of the different ones and made it this version of the Tao Te Ching. So there's now 14,001 translations of the Tao. What I did is I made a year-long commitment. I started it on January the 1st, 2006. And I read the very first verse of the Tao. I divided 81 verses, right? 365 days divided by 81 comes out to about 4.5 days for each verse of the Tao. That's what I was going to do. I was going to spend 4.5 days on just each one of the verses. And at the end of the 4.5 days, I was going to write an essay, a very short essay. It only took me maybe 2 hours to write the essays because I didn't write them, Oprah. They wrote them. I do it by hand because, in the Tao it teaches you don't want to use machines. You don't want a machine to interfere with your writing. So I wrote
So when you say the essays, it means, living with cooperation, living the mystery, living all that.
Each one of those were short essays.
After each verse.
After each verse. But I spent 4 days meditating on each of the verses, like memorizing them, going through them in my mind, and then going out where I live on Maui and putting them to work, putting them to practice. And I can remember some of them were hard, Oprah. I mean, some of these verses are very hard. Here's the line. The Tao does nothing. It leaves nothing undone. That's like one of the great lines in the Tao Te Ching. So how can you do nothing and emulate? You're emulating the Tao. You're emulating God, the way God acts, God, soul, spirit, divine mind, whatever you want to call this organizing intelligence that allows, everything to be. All being comes from non-being, That's right out of the Bible, too, by the way. The New Testament came 500 years after the Tao. It's loaded with the Tao.
Taoisms,
it's almost all of that is in there. It's the spirit that gives life.
Okay, this is one I like. I was looking for this, the 20th verse. Give up learning, and you will be free from all your cares. Now, see, when I read that.
I know, you read that.
And I thought, how can I give up learning? Okay, but then continue. What is the difference between yes and no? What is the difference between good and evil? Must I fear what others fear? Should I fear desolation when there is abundance? Should I fear darkness when that light is shining everywhere? In spring, some go to the park and climb the terrace, but I alone am drifting, not knowing where I am, like a newborn babe before it learns to smile. I am alone without a place to go. Most people have too much. I alone seem to be missing something. Mine is indeed the mind of an ignoramus in its unadulterated simplicity. I am but a guest in this world. While others rush about to get things done, I accept what is offered. I alone seem foolish, earning little, spending less.
With the perfect example of a Taoist master, according to Lao Tzu, is an infant. Has no name, doesn't know its identity, doesn't know its color, it doesn't know its cultural background, it doesn't know how to hate anything. It just is. It just is. It just is. And that's, it's like the first 9 months of your life. We went back to your conception.
That's right. You trusted God for everything.
Everything. You didn't say, oh my God, I hope I get a nose and I hope it shows up in the right place.
Yes.
And you was total, completely into surrender. Yes. Then you come out. Okay, at the 9th month, or that you pop out and you get surrounded by people who say, that's really good work, God, really good work. We'll take over from here.
Yeah.
And the minute you start taking over from here, what happens is you develop an ego, which is where you edge God out. E-G-O, you edge God out. Okay? And so now...
I never heard it that way before. That is so good.
Yeah. So you edge God out and you just push that to the side.
Good.
And what is this ego? What is it?
I'm going to be quoting you on that. Edge God out. That's what
it's an idea, Oprah. It's all it is. It's an idea that we carry around. You know what the idea of the ego is? It says, I am what I have. I am what I do. I am what other people